Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. For this presentation, I will discuss a project that I am working on with my colleagues Sabrina and Jörg Dollmann about sampling Portuguese migrants to Germany. We are based at the German Center for Integration and Migration Research, DISM, in Berlin. Very quickly, I will discuss the background of our project, an overview of our approach and sampling procedures, results as of the 27th of August, and our intended next steps. The Portuguese community of Germany has arrived more or less in three waves. First, alongside other guest workers, such as those from Turkey, the second following the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the third wave beginning about a decade ago. There are no good estimates of the size of the German Portuguese community, but we know it is quite small, fewer than 200,000 people, or at most about 0.25% of the German population. Because the population is so small and has low rates of survey participation and voter registration, we lack any sort of real understanding of the community. This project was conceived to address this lack of understanding by improving representation of the Portuguese community in a longitudinal study that we are running through DISM. In particular, we want to identify the most cost-effective methods of sampling and recruiting Portuguese Germans, among others. If we succeed in effectively bringing Portuguese Germans into our panel, we will be able to survey the community on a variety of topics, including integration and quality of life. This project is also part of several that aim to improve the sampling of small groups and minority populations, which means that we will also be able to compare the experiences of the Portuguese community to that of other migrant and minority communities in Germany. And one of the topics we are particularly interested in DISM is experiences of discrimination and prejudice. And we are also using this as a chance to develop our web RDS capabilities so that we can implement that in future projects. For our target population, we are interested in all individuals currently residing in Germany who were born in Portugal or with Portuguese citizenship, or have at least one parent born in Portugal or with Portuguese citizenship, so first and second generation. We are using a variety of sampling methods, and today I'm going to talk about three: onomastic classification of a probability proportionate to size sample, web-based respondent-driven sampling, and Facebook convenience sampling. Each method involves different procedures, incentives, and sampling probabilities, and they likely vary in their effectiveness. So here's a visual representation of our sampling procedures. The PPS sample is drawn from the population registries of 60 PSUs. Selected respondents were recruited by mail but pushed to web. We also ran an incentive experiment that has been presented on elsewhere. For the RDS sample, we are hoping for 200 respondents, and we're offering a €10 incentive for each new recruit who completes a survey. For our Facebook sample, we decided to recruit a minimum of 500 individuals, and we did not offer an incentive. So I'm going to begin with our probability proportionate to size PPS sample, and for this we use onomastic or name classification to identify members of our target groups. And this is a much larger project than just the Portuguese subsample, but I'll only focus on the Portuguese respondents today. Onomastic classification is the current gold standard for identifying minority individuals, and of course, PPS is probability-based sampling method that ensures a more representative sample. However, both PPS and the onomastic classification can be cost and resource intensive, and onomastic classification performs well for some groups or individuals that have more distinctive names, but cannot identify every target group of interest. Respondent-driven sampling, or for us, web-based respondent-driven sampling, is becoming more common for identifying members of small or hidden groups. It uses chain-based sampling, but allows for calculations of sampling probability, so we are able to produce these generalizable population conclusions. However, it does place the burden of recruitment on the respondents, and so can be difficult to them and often requires the use of incentives in order to overcome that burden. I won't say too much about Facebook, as its strengths and weaknesses have been discussed extensively by others. However, I want to note that Facebook implemented a number of changes to their ad accounts following the US 2020 election, and that much of the guidance for ad campaigns is thus outdated. One of the biggest changes that affected us for this project is that new accounts have strict limits for campaigns. We ended up having to delay launching our campaign until my brand new Facebook account had existed for a few months in order to prevent our ads from being blocked, and also my account from being closed. I'd hoped to have some more results to share, but as of the end of August, when I'm making this recording, we are still waiting on a lot of our data. We also encountered other delays, particularly with our web RDS code, and I just discovered what appears to be an issue with one of our network size questions. So we are currently revisiting our assumptions about network ties within the Portuguese-German community, and this is actually based on data from Facebook engagement. From the onomastic PPS sample, we identified almost 300 individuals we believed to be of Portuguese origin, which was less than 1% of the sample. All of these individuals were sent a survey. Our final response was 39 individuals, or about 13% of those invited to the survey. Now, please note that is not an A-poor response rate since I don't have complete data from the sample yet. We do have data from 19 individuals who responded using the web. We are still waiting on our postal responses. As you can see from the table on this slide, onomastic sampling worked fairly well for the Portuguese community, categorized here under other guest workers. It also worked well for individuals from majority Muslim countries and those of Turkish origin. However, onomastic classification did not work for ethnic Germans who immigrated from Eastern Europe, and these are a special category in Germany. And we suspect that it will not work for other groups of interest to us, such as African American soldiers and their descendants. For the RDS campaign, we took emails from individuals who responded to our Facebook study and invited them to share a link with eligible individuals. Once we get the emails from our PPS sample, we will do the same. So far, we have invited 60 people, 3 waves of recruitment, and had 4 completed responses. However, it does not appear that any of our respondents are forwarding the survey to contacts. So we're investigating that, whether it's a problem of low network ties or if there's a problem in our code. For the Facebook campaign, this turned out to be more expensive than we had hoped for. We actually wanted about twice the number of respondents, but for what is truly a small group, we had a good response rate and agreement to participate in our panel longitudinally. We will now need to develop weighting for these individuals, and we will base this on the German microcensus because this is a non-probability sample, and this is a future step. So here are some selected demographics from our samples. Now, as I noted, we have small n's for our PPS and RDS samples, so please don't draw any conclusions in comparison, but we can see that we are mostly finding first-generation migrants who were born in Portugal or sometimes former Portuguese colonies. So here's another slide of demographic data, but again, it's not valid for comparison. You will see, however, that regardless of how we are sampling and recruiting individuals, income remains a sensitive topic. So what are our next steps? We will revise our network size questions to try to address the issues our RDS respondents are having. Hopefully receive the full data set from our PPS sample so we can begin our comparisons to our Facebook sample and the microcensus and start developing weights. We have also started developing the next several waves of the DSM panel, so perhaps we will have those results to present at the next conference. That is all for my presentation. Thank you for your attention, and please feel free to email me if you have any questions.